Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. For anyone that's not tuned in before, it's an absolute pleasure to have you listening to the show. And I'm really, really happy that you've clicked on the pinkest icon that you've ever seen. If you've been tuning in for a while, thank you so much for joining in. Our community is growing and our downloads are increasing and our reviews are going up as well. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the review button, and feel free to reach out to us as well if you want to ask any questions or find out anything about the show, even recommend an episode or ask for some help on something specific. Just send us an email, hello@winningwithshopify.com, or go on the website, winningwithshopify.com, all one word, and fill out one of the forms on the website. And we'll aim to get back to you, and I will aim to personally get back to as many people as I can as well. Anyway, on to today's topic. So today we are finishing our series in May about Google, talking about PPC, SEO, and a whole range of other things. Been delighted to have a few people from my own team on here. I did my own solo. I was going to call it a rant, but it wasn't quite a rant. It was more of a instructive episode as well a couple of weeks ago. And we had an amazing webinar as well we published last week about CRO with an amazing guest, Ben Burgess, as well. But today we're going to finish the series in style. I'm delighted to have a really good friend of mine, Richard at Chapple, back for a third show. Former CMO of Gymshark and Play.com, and now founder of the Growth Foundation. So Richard, welcome back.
Hello Nick, and hello everyone. Yeah, glad to be back, and really love talking to you. We get stuck into some great topics and subjects. So yeah, and very excited to get into Google as well. Very good.
Yeah, the beast that is within
yes,
is often
indeed.
how we look at Google. But yeah, we're just to say as well, just for us, Richard, to introduce his background for anyone that's not heard from Richard before or heard his name. Just to say, like, we are not being paid by Google, and that will be so evident once we get in, because we're not going to hold back.
We've all paid Google too much. Surely they need to be paying us back something, don't they? Yeah.
Exactly. I think there's a special place in heaven for all of the advertisers of Google Ads where we get a special seat at the table as for all of our payments we've made to them over the years and overpaying for clicks and all the rest of it. But Richard, give us a background, or give us your background, a little overview to where.
Yeah, the whistle stop tour. You called out a couple of roles in my background, but yeah, 30 years in retail. Started on the shop floor at Sainsbury's home base back in the 90s when Sainsbury's owned it. Fell in love with retail actually. Went into a junior marketing role, another home improvement brand, Carpetright in the UK, all physical stores, and trying to get that business to think more digitally. When I was there, I was sort of the young future gazer in the room saying, we need a website. And, my MD saying, people will never buy floor covering online. And here we are 24 years. Then Play.com, head of marketing, sort of 20 million to 500 million in 4 and a bit years. Then did a incredible stint at the Hut Group, THG, as sort of as e-commerce director responsible for demand creation for first party and the third party brands that we were looking for in that business, everything from general merchandise, DVDs, games to beauty and nutrition. And then out into met the Gymshark business at 8 million and was a consultant originally, hit fractional, and ended up falling in love and becoming involved in that business full time as CMO, sort of 8 million to 200. And then founded the Growth Foundation in 2020, now a team of 28 growth practitioners here, and we practice strategy consultancy, so telling founders, investors, you name it, I suppose senior leaders and owners of businesses of like how to grow. Often we get approached by people that growth is going really quick and they don't know what's coming around the corner, and getting prepared for that. Sometimes growth is going slower than expected, and obviously we've all felt the turmoil in all of the advertising platforms sort of post-COVID and cost of input costs going up. So that's put a lot of pressure on the D2C land in particular. And also, should I expand channels? Should I expand country? Should I expand my audience? All those things. So we've got some great pattern recognition and brains here to think about the how. And then we often hang around to do some of the executional work of when those plans are in place. So we do recruitment and a bit of performance marketing, CRM, Crow, content creative, you name it. So sort of full service here. Also, if I've got an opportunity to plug for a second, we've got an incredible conversion rate optimization app called Order Rescue, which helps your cart conversion. So check that out. I think probably as a bit of a segue, Nick, into the conversation as you and I were chatting earlier in the week, is interestingly, even though I've been around before, actually in retail before Google existed, which is incredible.
Slightly older than me then. I've been in this industry a while.
I've been responsible for leading, I suppose, the teams that then are in platform pushing the buttons. I've never been a practitioner of the buttons themselves. So I was a bit nervous around coming on, thinking, are you looking for those, like, the hacks and the golden buttons? And
There isn't one.
yeah,
There
as we
isn't a
know,
golden
there
button.
isn't one. So I think we're going to talk a bit more high level, aren't we, around how the sort of the channels, particularly SEO and paid search, sort of fit into perhaps a more comprehensive, multi-channel 360 marketing approach, and perhaps how marketing leaders consider this channel in terms of its the resources and the cost, but also the return and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into it. And again, if you want to contact me, I'm very visible and available in LinkedIn, and we're at the growth.foundation is our website.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Richard. And just a plug as well, and I'm not being paid to say this. It's the second time I've said that so far today. I'm not being paid to say this, and I've got no skin in the game with Richard at all. He's just a great contact. But order rescue is such a great concept because, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Richard, but certainly when we've used it, the main thing was customer gets to the cart and they're going like, oh, I've got everything in there, I've got some stuff in my basket, and they don't purchase. So you guys inject the most relevant or the best coupon or discount code into the cart, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's completely. If I'm allowed 30 seconds to talk about it, there's an interesting sort of sense of behaviour here. Is that quite often, and more often than not, in the last couple of years, obviously, influencer, creator-led sort of, I suppose, awareness building is quite common for most D2C brands. A lot of them will use codes that are, influencer name 10. A is a way of sort of tracking potentially sort of revenue and engagement of that influencer, but also giving the creator influencer something, I suppose, exclusive for their audiences. And obviously the amount of typos we see with our technology and the dashboard around people typing the name wrong. So Sarah is a great one, because is it spelled with an H or not? Does it have a space between Sarah and the number 10? So quite often there's probably a third of all the invalid coupon attempts that get made in checkout, which is usually 8% of all your checkout traffic, will attempt a code that is invalid. About a third of them are actually typos of valid codes that you're actually trying to give your customers to convert.
There we go.
And we can then replace that with a correct one. But also there are, of course, the people that are just trying it on. We see lots of people trying staff 10, staff 20.
We've all
staff
done
30.
it, haven't we?
Yeah, of course, every time.
If you get tempted off, I'll buy now. And the brand.
Yeah, and what's brilliant about the tool, for the merchant, is they can configure that, and they can either offer a code based on people trying it on, or they can say, well, actually, no, that's not right. You're trying to get something that I can sell at full margin. You're an existing customer. Why would I give you an extra discount? But it's super configurable. And the summary is, on average, merchants see about 1% total increase in revenue when it's switched on for a very low cost on a monthly basis. So I've got a couple of our larger merchants have generated over $2-3 million in incremental revenue with it on. Yeah, so.
Which we're talking about Google today and the amount of money we pay through skin, teeth.
Well, if you think particularly in the path to purchase, right, which is the click from either Google or any other source traffic into your website, is then, as we all know, the quality of the landing page and the quality of the flow through the website will directly affect your ROI on that channel. So which sitting where I do, like, it's brutal sometimes. We send the best traffic through, the best advert, and we get a 10-15% click-through rate. They land on the site and we're like, nope, and just leave. And you're like, what else can I do? And so we do have to turn, obviously, to on page. Let's start talking about SEO first. We'll cry about Google budgets a bit later, but let's talk about SEO. So where do you think a lot of brands go wrong with the way that, just holistically for a second, like the way they approach SEO, think about SEO, or structure their teams, the business around SEO? Yeah, I mean, I'll talk quite high level here, Nick. SEO, I suppose, that it's up until the leak this week of the Google API information, which I don't know if you've covered yet on your podcast. I haven't covered it yet. We can talk about it today, yeah. But I suppose up until this week, it's been a material set, I suppose, the dark arts of the algorithm. So I think when you're talking in the boardroom or to other senior leaders, it feels like voodoo and snake oil to some degree, when you say, particularly if you've got I've been in a head of marketing role where I've thought about, do I use an agency who can come and help perhaps more on the technical side of SEO to help what Google is looking for. There's the content elements to that, and you have to try and get all those things running together, and then you're presenting back probably realistically tens if not small hundreds of £1,000s a year to do a really good job of it, with no major guarantee, and also the of the return, but also I suppose the speed of the return is also one of those things that can be quite frustrating as someone who's tried to put these things in place. Is that you can put let's say equivalent £10,000 into the paid side of Google's I suppose, platform and other places and get the virtually, I suppose, immediate or within days or weeks return and the visibility of that. So that's really difficult. And I suppose ultimately the way I feel about it is that there is a bit of a leap of faith and conviction that you need to bring to the business to get that investment approved and to go for it. And it's similar to some degree, I think, in my head around sort of PR. You know, when you hear brands talking about we need to do more PR in that sort of, I suppose, awareness part of the funnel. You know, the mid to upper side. Is that has a similar thing. Difficult to measure, takes long term to build. You need to be consistent, resilient, and all those things. And one of the things that you and I have spoken about at length is also it's not just a technical requirement that should sit perhaps in the e-com team. It needs it obviously needs that component around, you know, site speed and all the various sort of meta tagging and quality of the construction of the website and, you know, all the engineering elements of that.
Page speed,
but actually,
and all that.
That's only half of the I suppose half the solution. The other half is then, you know, the content itself. How you write, what you write, but also trying to do it in a way that's attractive, I suppose, for the spiders or the you know, the things that are crawling the sites to help inform the search algorithms and where you place, but also not looking or, you know, presenting that in a way that doesn't feel odd, so that as a target consumer, you're like, why is there, you know, this just seems weird in terms of what I'm reading.
You're mentioning the same phrase 20 times.
Yeah, why you keep saying, you know, leggings 30,000 times on this web page? It's a really difficult thing, I think, ultimately. But I suppose there's an element of, you know, nothing comes for free. And often if you can get that right, and I suppose if you're at a scale where you can put some concerted effort into it and be consistent and have that confidence to say, we're not going to get anything really for 6 to 12 months here. Think about both sides of that solution, engineering and content. And how do you then perhaps create a task force across the business? So you've got someone from perhaps the creative or brand element of your business who are thinking more like that, and then, you know, their antidote, which is the engineering, more and technical side, working together on it is key. And I think the other things as well, some of the sort of pattern recognition I've had of particularly, I suppose, if you think about that long-term nature of things, like, don't be frightened about having evergreen sort of pages or content around some things that are quite promotional for you. Obviously, things like, you know, it could be Christmas promotions, could be summer sales. I'm thinking Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or things that you're famous for, perhaps around, you know, the drops that you do. You know, having and building sort of destination pages around blog content and things like that. That, you know, so if someone's thinking, all right, September, I wonder what my brand I like is going to do for Black Friday. You know, having a consistent sort of Black Friday presence on your website that is evergreen, that can index well, it sort of makes sense as well.
I mean, I think for a topic I sprung on you, 48 hours ago, I think you've done an incredibly good job of explaining so many areas. As someone who works in the SEO world, so for anyone that's not listened to this before, so Richard's worked as CMO on brand side, whereas I'm working practitioner side, where we get hired as an agency to consult on all of this. You're speaking so much of my language, Richard. I mean, certainly getting the creative and engineering teams working together, that's been a real challenge over the years, and everything from personnel problems to process problems to system problems. But I mean, if we just use that evergreen example, which I think is brilliant, is say you guys sell, I don't know, coffee cups. I'm just drinking a coffee, as some of the people watching on YouTube will know. So say you just sell branded coffee cups, and you know at Black Friday, you're always going to get a big spike. If you always ranked #1 for like Black Friday promotional material or personalized coffee cups with Black Friday on that, because you had a page all year round, when you get to Black Friday, just forward that page straight into your collection page on Shopify or category page on Magento or any other platforms. You put that straight through, and you've got that same set of link juice from all those offsite, all those offsite links and all those articles from every Black Friday year, all channeled into that one page every year. Not only have you been #1 all year, and history is a ranking factor, you're also now getting all of that diving into one place. And what are people looking for? Where are they going? Where are they landing? It's going to generate revenue. And so I think getting the creative and engineering teams on board to say, we need to design this, it needs to be put together properly. But from an engineering point of view, we want an email box. So when Black Friday is not on, people can subscribe to email, and we can actually just start, you know, kind of a whole workflow around those people saying, it's not Black Friday, but we've got Father's Day sale on right now. You might be interested in this.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of
all kicks in.
sort of I suppose maintenance of those pages so they feel relevant and up to date based on the time of year or what's going on, right? The other thing I suppose to consider, again, you know, I'm sure there'll be a very diverse set of listeners to this content, right? From everyone who's in the perhaps more impulsive, smaller AOV, very fast decision to buy, and maybe more rational products. And I'm thinking maybe coffee cup feels more like that.
Yep.
And if you think about, perhaps we mentioned it from my history, buying floor covering, right? Let's say tiles or carpet or laminate flooring, wood flooring. That journey from kind of thinking I'm going to decorate the front room to purchase is often, 8, 12, 16 weeks, right? And I suppose there's an element of, and it'd be interesting to see how Google and Gemini and the other kind of, AI-led, interrogation options we have on the web are going to start to sort of influence how this happens. But if you start to think about inspiration, and I'm entering the market, that's again, concentrating your SEO assets there versus being at the very end moment, which is you've made a decision to buy, right? They're very different states of mind around that. And I think obviously don't forgetting that it shouldn't just always be about the buy now.
Yep.
It can be your customers are still very much in discovery phase. And I suppose thinking about, content that considers the persona of the audience. So, age, social demographic background, location, disposable income, all those other things. And then also, I suppose, that kind of that earlier journey. So I'm thinking around, how do you, for the brand in particular, what do you know as the pain points, that when people are in discovery mode or exploration mode, that you can bring to life, both rationally, what are the rational things it does, right? Like it's floor covering, hard wearing, stain proof, slip resistant, or whatever. But also, the more emotional side of things, which is, I'm going to be really proud of how my front room looks, and you want to take a picture of it to show the world on Instagram. Perhaps, I don't know, but it's all that stuff, isn't it? Complex absolutely. Subject. It's massive, isn't it?
It is indeed. And I think, where SEO comes into play though, which you've touched on there, is that full funnel. So from the moment of going like, okay, how much does a new bathroom, and this is something my wife and I do at the moment, is a new bathroom. And I know she watches these now. So, hey, honey. But new bathroom. And we started by going, okay, we know we need to do it. We should probably do some other plumbing at the same time. How much is it going to cost? So my first few searches were like, how much is a new boiler? When's gas going to be discontinued in the UK? Like, are we going to do that? So should I buy a gas boiler, electric alternative? And then looking at like, how much does a bathroom cost? So I started looking up those kind of things initially, and actually
before even deciding on what colour tiles and the layout of the room and stuff. So yes,
my wife, however, she's straight into like Pinterest mood boards. That's where she begins her journey. Which again, Pinterest is a social channel, but you use it like a search engine. You search for things on it, and I was doing it all the time when I was thinking like, what vibe of bathroom colour do I want? I said, look, let's go on Pinterest, and just did a search and went, okay, we're going grayscale, and actually we can accent it with bright green plants. That's the plan for the bathroom.
Yeah, nice. Okay,
and so we got some shots of that and put them on a little Word doc, just copy and paste them. But every shot we looked at, and this is the key where SEO linking comes into play, and use Pinterest like a search engine, same way you use Google or YouTube or Bing. Pinterest, I searched on it, and everything I looked at, I could click each item and it would take me to that page, normally on a Shopify store. And it would go, this shower is here, these tiles are here, these plants are here. So next thing you know, within 5 minutes, I'm saving products. So you see how quickly I've gone from what color and vibe should we go to, right the way down to like, okay, what stuff are we buying? And then, we went in store, the whole journey continued.
And also I think, again, from that sort of longer, I suppose, decision path to purchase point, for brands like that, the ability of not pushing the sale and perhaps pushing samples, so building trust early on, saying, again, actually you're not in that mode ready to buy yet, right? So that's really key, and just understanding that path. One other thing that jumps to mind as we're talking as well, and I'm really conscious that sort of also a caveat in terms of I'm not in the back end of these systems in terms of what's permitted and what's not, but back 10, 15 years ago, we did what's called a creative solution with one of the UK's sort of biggest magazine publishers. So they've got physical magazines, the equivalent magazine titles as online content as well. And we did a kind of a 360 creative solution, which included sort of advertorials, paid to typical premium display ads in magazine, but also then doing actually links that you might think affiliate links in their website content, but actually on purpose we left them as organic to improve our SEO rating and approval, and we were able to effectively buy that offline. So you're having a conversation with a salesperson at the media house saying, we'll invest X, and that's going to unlock all these different types of communication channels through your media network, physical and online, and then obviously being able to get a link back to look fantastic from from a very well respected female beauty magazine to say, here are the top 10 mascaras, as that had a massive impact for us in terms of sort of quality score or approval from on the search engines.
Yeah. Look fantastic. They've actually linked to 3 of our clients in the last 30 days. So when you mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, we got a few of those. We got a few of those.
Okay.
One thing I want to wrap on this though, I know we're talking very specifically about like SEO, and we're making some assumptions here about you've got a good brand, good product, it's
Yeah.
sticking, people are buying it, etc. But I just want to make that point actually that like if any of you are sitting there going, oh, Media House, what the hell is that? And Googling it because Richard just said it.
Yeah.
Have a think first that actually at what point in your journey this stuff starts to come into play. Because the kind of client we often take on was probably similar to the kind of roles you've had, Richard, of like you say, Gymshark, we're at 8 million, how do we get to 200? That's the kind of client we work with. And often we look at the mix and go, they're doing 1 or 2 things really well, but sometimes it is the core USP brand that's not quite there yet, or a whole range of other things that we then go, okay, how do we get everything ready and then make a ton of noise? Because I think there's always the danger as well if you make loads of noise quickly and go, nothing's sticking, we're getting negative reviews, and it's like we're a very immature business. We need to accept that.
I think there's
a
potentially oversimple analogy that I look at when, and maybe you've got something similar, Nick, when you look at a business that's ready to, let's say, grow up, or in that they're in that next inflection point of growth from single digit millions into the tens and hundreds, is if you look at each, I suppose, function of the business, and I sort of deconstruct that into 10, which I won't go into all 10 now. For example, here are some: product, brand, which is typically content creation, campaign management, organic and earned channels. And then marketing is your paid and CRM. You've got what I call trading, which is the on-site conversion rate optimization at the point of sale. And they're all the things that I suppose the consumer or the end user touches, and including operations actually. Then you've got finance, tech, I think of it like an aeroplane with 2 wings, with the demand side wing and the supply and foundations. If you meet a brand where actually it's flying pretty straight because of all of those things are kind of perhaps thrusting at the same
that makes
rate,
sense.
you can kind of go, actually, I can start to put more, let's say, pull the throttles on all of them. But sometimes, again, you must admit this is where you're right. Yeah, do you know what, the clarity in what you are and who you are isn't here, and there's no point again working on a long-term investment channel like SEO and others, PR, and until we've got real clarity of, I suppose this comes back to that strategy point, like where we play, if I deconstruct that, what's our product and the offer architecture, what is the target audience we're after, which sales channels do we sell through, and which geographies do we sell in? If you've got real clarity on that, and then the second part of the strategy is the more emotional one, which is how do we win? So how do we turn up, and what's the attitude of our brand in those places? Which is really key in all of those things, including SEO, and as we move in to talk about paid search and others, right? But you're right, and I think actually in the experience I've had, there's typically been, I suppose, if you think about the time, quality, cost triangle of a manager's head, where they're thinking, right, I want higher quality, I want lower costs and faster stuff. Often SEO can be left towards the end of the kind of, I suppose, priority list based on, it's quite complex, nervous about quality, it's quite expensive, and it takes a long time. It's a harder one.
It's a very good way of putting it, and it almost going back to something you said earlier as well about getting all the different teams and channels kind of all working to push SEO because they all influence it so much. Actually, if you get to the stage you're describing there, and then suddenly it's like, well, we just have Barry the freelancer, and he just does a couple of minor tweaks. We don't know what he does, but SEO is going up. Actually, that could be one of the thrusters on that plane, and you have no idea what it's doing, how hard it's pushing. So you actually don't know the trajectory of the plane. I think, just to add to your plane analogy, I had a sudden thought that actually if something was, say you had 4 jets on it and one of them's pushing too hard, the plane's going to change direction.
It just keeps sort of, maybe goes up, but goes in, not the objective's here, but it's flying off.
But to get it back, you're going to have to then overcompensate in another area to go, do you know what? We've got an amazing website, converts highly, the offerings are incredible, but we've done lack of brand awareness. Rather than going, oh, we'll just improve that and then the whole plane will fly straight, you're still in the wrong direction. You almost then have to like overcompensate that, like, actually, we need to do something even bigger now. We need to do something viral. Let's get some influencers involved, some, sort of class A celebrities, or whatever the latest terminology is for the top tier. But let's get Ronaldo to wear our product or to use our product or to come to a shoot, regardless of cost, because we know that he'll drive so many people to our website, to our brand, to our stores, whatever the kind of CTA is. he'll drive so much engagement for us, and he's on point, and we've checked it. He's the right person to work with, that we know we're going to convert when they arrive. And sometimes you just don't want to go too light with that if the brand has been so lean and kind of cookie cut until now that it's all working really well. We just not got the reach and the kind of just the total remit of customers that we should really be getting. But I guess, I mean, bringing it back to Gymshark quickly, you'd never actually told me the numbers specifically. So like 8 million to 200 million. Just thinking about Google for a second, what were some of the big drivers? Were they within Google? Were they outside of Google? Was it that multi-channel approach, or was it that you got all jets were kind of working on that plane, and now it's like we just hit the turbo button and just put nitrous oxide into all jets?
It's a little while ago, so actually remembering the exact mix. I mean, overall, I met that business in 2016, around that, so 8 million turnover mark. And it had grown effectively through influencer creator gifting in YouTube and Instagram. So timing's right. The algorithms in those platforms for those content creators are still reaching effectively nearly 100% of their audience when they post things, which is not the case anymore.
Lovely days, weren't they? It's about 5 now.
Oh, the days. There was effectively, you could see that, I suppose, when you deconstruct it, that there was still so much more to go after there, because it was still a fairly rudimentary and narrow program, just of gifting and the sophistication of that program alone. And then when you kind of look down I suppose when we may get into this conversation, when you look at Google Analytics and what it's telling you, you're like, you can't see that in there. It just says direct and organic as the thing, because people are typing in probably maybe the influencer name and Gymshark into Google and seeing the Gymshark URL and clicking on it, so it comes through as a direct or organic. So in the first year, possibly year and a half, there were still some engines to fix in that business, like, making sure. Actually, when you think things like, I mean, just for example, and this isn't just directly related to Gymshark, but I mean, a lot of businesses that are perhaps hype launch related, they have the big sort of, hype build, and then have these incredible spikes, maybe even 12, 18, 20 times a year, where they do, maybe even tens, hundreds, if not millions of pounds on a day or a short period of time, and then do virtually nothing until the next one. And actually, when you looked at the product market fit and the demand that was building for that product at the time, the conversion rates would go from, just for conversation, somewhere like 5 to 10% on those launch days, or even higher, and then the following day be down at 1, right? And it was like, because we've run out, so basically because we haven't got the stock. So it was that, and I think one of the things that we talk about, I talk about a lot here, is using the McDonald's tactic, which is like, you find what you're famous for and what people want every day, your Big Macs, your nuggets, and your quarter pounder with cheese, and then you have the hype products, which are maybe the McRib and the mozzarella cheese sticks or whatever, that you've got something new to say and people perhaps will try, and maybe they don't. I'm not going to try that new thing, but I end up buying the Big Mac anyway, because you just reminded me about McDonald's. And actually, for a gym brand, perhaps it's the slightly less, I suppose. It probably will be black leggings or grey tracksuit bottoms for a guy, right? So, but having those statement things that make you stand out and have something to say and a story to tell is really key. So SEO probably didn't come in. Actually, we didn't get SEO going with any real focus and energy until sort of late 2017. Again, we actually hired internally, actually 2 relatively junior guys. Actually, they were guys. When I say guys. They were just male. We did talk to females, of course, as well as that role, but they were 2 guys that we hired. And they were really around that glue internally. So it was more of a coordination with SEO and improving, I suppose, our visibility around more generic terms and not the brand. The brand was getting loads of attention anyway. So it was things like, sweat wicking performance T-shirts and other bits and bobs, right? But actually, interestingly, one of the techniques that we used, and again, may not be as easy as it was back in the halcyon days, was like that blog content, and having Gymshark Central was really key to sort of driving, I suppose, helping the SEO point. Because we knew that we were very influencer creator driven, having profile pages around lots of biography and background information of our sponsors or influencers. So that would perhaps, so if someone did type in Steve Cook Gymshark, our blog post would rank around where's he from, what's he do, what does he eat, how many chickens does he broccoli, how much chicken and broccoli does he eat a week or whatever. And actually that was really interesting, organically, but then we would also try and capture you into CRM at that point, which it could be keep up to date with the latest news. And we would test lots of things, not just offer related in terms of here's 10% off. We were slightly more, let's see what actually works and what the quality of the customer we get by what we offer them at that point. But actually then the ability then to I suppose, group those audiences up and retarget back in paid channels that we know you'd spent 5 minutes reading the Steve Cook page.
Here's
Then
his range.
you know,
Yeah.
and then like using his content perhaps then as an ad that we would then boost and put in front of you again in a couple of weeks' time. So it was a nice creating that sort of try and I suppose influence the path to purchase.
Yeah. We did. I can't remember exactly what it was called or when it was, but we did a thing recently. I think it was a webinar. And forgive me, guys, I do so many of these things at the moment. But I remember we were saying like 95% of your audience don't convert. Why not? And we kind of unpacked that. It might have even been an episode that went out a week or two ago, but we're trying to unpack actually like why are people being turned off when they come on your website? And obviously on the flip side, 5% conversion rate is amazing, but that's 5% of people that have hit your site today. Whereas actually the people that converted have probably hit your site previously, which means that 5% might actually be higher if you look at it on a user base.
I usually see like first time visit, and again, conscious you've got to take the context of what Google or your reporting engine considers as a new visit. It might be 30 days, it might be set to 90, but again, but again, if you're like think of that floor covering point, you might be a 4-month process. Google would see you as a new customer maybe twice in that period,
at least.
And actually, you're not. You're a returning customer. And actually, every site I think I've ever looked at, I'm struggling to think of one. When you look at that, path to purchase report in GA4 and stuff, particularly in GA3, I can visualize it really quickly because I looked at so many. The returning customer had double the conversion at least.
Right, absolutely.
Because returning visit is key, and I suppose it's interesting, isn't it, that 95% because who don't go. I suppose there's such great ease and virtually no cost for the individual to exit. Whereas if you look in physical retail, I think the average is around 25 to 30% of all footfall in a physical store converts because of the cost to get there, right, and the energy that you're taking as a human to walk around it.
But I think just going back to that example, I completely agree with what you're saying about shops, for sure. But the example of like, how do someone's come in and looked at this influencer stuff on our site, we're going to retarget to them. The one thing I think I would add just to what you were saying, and you kind of hinted at this anyway, is email. If you can get someone's email address and start that flow, the beautiful thing now is every visit to the site, you're probably sending them an email not always, but probably it's an email you've sent them that's nudged them to come in, which means you can watch that whole journey. And I found it fascinating that, just going back to your point about Google Analytics, and this is a task for everybody to do a bit of homework. Go on your own Google Analytics, go in GA4 and look at how much of your email traffic are new users, and that will answer exactly and confirm exactly what Rich has just said about quite a lot of what it thinks are new users is just people it hasn't tracked properly because they've moved devices, cookies have expired, etc., etc. So email especially, you can't come from email unless I emailed you, and I can't email you unless you've given me your email address, which probably would have happened on the website. So you're not new users, but Google Analytics will still say like 80% new users, and you're like, it's impossible, absolutely impossible.
Completely impossible.
But I love that joined up journey of like how we can use SEO to hook them in at the point where they've seen an influencer, SEO kicks in and gets them on site, and now it's just a scattergun of like any channel from retargeting to email to social to SEO again to
and also make sure you're considering perhaps where that content or the thing that SEO is driven around, where they are in their path to purchase. So are they in that high intent, I need something urgently now, or actually I'm still in discovery, as you say, looking at upgrading the bathroom in 6 months' time.
Let's talk about our second big elephant in the room then, so Google Ads. And we can talk about Facebook mildly in this as well. So like obviously Facebook, you now have to pay to advertise to the other 95% of your already followers. I know it's not exactly 5, it seems to be a bit of an average. And obviously on Google Ads, like the costs are going up dramatically. Even when we as an agency have run tests and gone, okay, there's only 25% of the people advertising on this keyword that used to, and the CPC is still double what it was last year, the cost per click. What's your experience been of Google Ads? Go on, give us the full rant, Richard. You can absolutely let rip.
Very high level. So I say at play.com, Google, obviously, I think I'm just switched on their advertising platform when I was there. So it was the new world, right? There wasn't anyone in the industry who had any experience. It's a little like TikTok shop now, that's growing really quickly, and you try and find, has anyone had 5 years experience of running shops in TikTok? Like no one, they just don't exist, these people, right? So back then. This is also back in the day when you could spend an hour at lunchtime clicking on your competitors' ads and knock them off.
Get rid of them for that whole afternoon,
Yeah, because they'd hit their budget. So there's all that. So early days. But I think ultimately, in everywhere I've ever been, the way, particularly with all the complexity, and I'm sure we all feel the same frustration, you do, I do, all the listeners do, around truth and visibility on that horrid word of attribution, and knowing which platform is, I suppose, where to spend the next pound most effectively, or dollar, is that we've always taken an approach. And actually at play.com we did this, which was back then, you may imagine this, I had a new customer acquisition cost, or a CAC, CPNA, we used to call it then, we didn't call it CAC, it was cost per new acquisition, of £5. And nice. I had true clarity of how many new customers in a very robust but difficult to manage Oracle e-commerce platform. Yep. And then effectively kind of you pay some attention to obviously in-platform information around, and again, the way we structured it back then was, I suppose, sort of head, torso, and sort of bottom legs kind of in terms of our brand approach, obviously, which is closer to the intent of purchase. So that upper head part was around more generics, getting people to understand who we were as a brand and what we did. And at the bottom, it's like people typing in a very long, detailed key word like Harry Potter, DVD movie 2 Steelbook edition. If someone types that in, they're in market. Yeah. They're in market, right? So we looked at it like that, and I suppose ultimately it was always that keeping an eye on things initially daily, then weekly, then monthly, but rolling that back up to look at all the other expense we had as a team. We couldn't even advertise in Meta back then, but so radio, TV, all of our outbound, I suppose, or paid media activity, and then you divide how much you spend over the number of new customers you had. And there was an element, I suppose, of trying to keep in touch with the various teams that are executing those different channels, and knowing I tend to be this is getting easier, or if the efficiency or the scale is coming from what we're doing. And then I suppose as a leader of that, you're kind of the conductor who's trying to work out, well, actually, let's give you a little bit more of that budget and belief that if I give you more, you're gonna, at the end of the month, I'm gonna hit my budget of £5 and have many more new customers, or you're actually gonna get the new customers that we've promised the business, and we've actually delivered it for £3.80 instead of £5. And then all the way, roll up to more modern times, where I suppose what it feels as though is actually, back in the early days, the merchant or the advertiser is responsible for constructing absolutely everything about the ad. And obviously, now and again, I'm not an expert, but obviously both the Meta and Google platforms want you to just trust them effectively, almost fully, with the way that they're working. The approach at Gymshark actually was an element of not always directly sort of 50-50, but splitting the budgets into let the algorithm-led program, I suppose, campaigns run. And we used to sort of just have a bit of fun. And actually, I used to task my team of try and beat it. You are really smart humans. The algorithm is going to be able to move faster than you, but it doesn't have your non-linear thinking. It doesn't have what you truly know about the brand and the consumer at the heart of it. And let's have some fun. And we used to sort of do little discretionary bonuses and things if the team would beat the algorithm-driven
that's fun
programs and stuff. But I suppose overall, it's really hard, and particularly on the attribution point, as you know, Google Analytics and their platform will tell you that it's doing better than it truly is. Meta will tell you their channels.
The Google platforms disagree with each other. That's the bit that makes me laugh.
Oh man, it's just completely baffling. Utterly baffling. But I don't know if there's anything you want to unpack a bit more there, Nick. I'm conscious I'm quite high level around that.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's really interesting actually that most of the times we've spoken about PPC or meta advertising here, it's been very like on the ground, going like, you need a video that features this and this. The founder saying,
have this word and things like that.
We're solving a problem. Put that out there. That'll at least get people interested. You can check if your brand's going to work or not and build from there. It's interesting hearing it from a more. I use this word very loosely with you, Richard, because nothing about you strikes me as corporate, but in kind of bigger, slightly more corporate environments.
I think just
bigger
perhaps,
brands.
I think hopefully sophisticated is the word that I tried to use, because corporate always has that sense of like slow,
black ties,
just slow and political is probably the things I always think about corporate. I mean, in all the business I've been in, like really fast pace, right, and agile. So it's but it's and then I suppose sophistication and good methodologies allowed you to create that pace and agility. The other thing I suppose I was thinking again, and this is similar to some of the commentary we had around SEO. This is really important around, I suppose, the importance of this channel based on the type of product you sell. So if you're a very rational problem-solving product that people have high intent and are typically going to go to a search engine to find,
Mm.
then that needs to be probably, it will be the first channel that you may even launch and
Yeah.
invest in, maybe Google search, right? Whereas if you are more of a, an emotional problem-solving, status-led brand, that you need to maybe educate people around. You've created a brand new thing, an invention that doesn't exist. I'll give you an example of one at the moment. Actually, would be we're doing some work with a lovely brand called Biome 9, and the clue's in the name, but it doesn't come across. This is around supplements and testing kits for dogs' gut health. So this is a completely new, I suppose, taking, we've all got a little understanding of, looking after your gut health is probably good for your long-term health prospects, but for dogs it's the same. And how does this brand go about, as a startup, getting the awareness that it needs? And obviously there is some people typing in dog, is my dog's gut healthy? And obviously I don't want to get, depending on what time of day people listen to this, but, ends up in, we're thinking about putting, some stickers on poo bins around the parks and stuff to say, do you know what's going on inside your dog's health, gut? And you're thinking about all those things, and there is an element of search, but search for that business won't be the number one.
Yep.
The paid search element of that business won't be the first thing that they probably start to think about. They've got to educate people and just get awareness first of all. People aren't. Yeah. There's not a lot of volume of people typing in dog gut biome into Google.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head there. Is like some brands we launch, they're like, right, we're going to throw everything at Google. And we always sort of go back with some keywords and say, like, don't assume there's already intent for it. Because in a lot of situations, especially more medical things, there's not. People don't know there's a problem until you tell them. So where the Google kind of system kicks in really is retargeting. And it's once someone knows what it is, if our brand isn't sticky enough, which is a separate issue we should also try to solve, they're going to go to Google and go like, okay, dog gut health food or something. And even if you don't sell food, you need to have a page that says, this is why you shouldn't get this from food, why we do it as a supplement that you add into their water or add
completely.
Into food.
And I think, when you think about where search does play a part for that, for Biome 9 would be thinking about perhaps the things that dog owners are typing into Google. So,
why is my dog doing this?
Yeah, why has my dog got flaky skin? Why has my dog got low energy? And then suddenly that is interesting, right? Because you're solving a problem, and then which they may not have considered might be due to their gut. And I suppose the other thing when I was thinking about coming on today, and this has been true in probably all of the businesses that I've been in as an employee and a marketing leader, but also and when I'm thinking about the business I'm in now, I'm really, I suppose, nervous and when there's a material dominance of one channel overall for the business, right? And I suppose there's that, and I suppose that, again, for the listeners out there, if you've got material dominance from one channel, that's something to work quite quickly on, I suppose, building a mitigation plan in for. So I remember kind of getting at Gymshark, knowing that we wanted, I suppose I used to talk in the boardroom of things like, I want the permission, the ability to be able to switch off Meta completely and it not impact our business much. It will have some impact, but it wouldn't and when I mean Meta, it's like, that's everything from paid, the organic and the gifting activity we were doing in it. What happens if something disastrous happens in that business where it doesn't exist anymore, or they decide to put a tax on absolutely everything? We need to have, I suppose, other routes to our consumer.
The UK government have done recently with digital services tax.
There's all sorts of things. So I think, again, have the confidence of, if you're a merchant out there, that your consumers exist in both the online world and the offline world, and there's some really incredible sort of still scrappy guerrilla ways to get to them, and don't be that's really key.
I completely echo this point, and we've actually got 3 clients we've taken on recently that we've made some really, really quick fixes in the account. Basically they're targeting the wrong people or something quite fundamental is wrong, and we sort of switch that and revenue goes up quickly. And then they're like, oh, that's amazing, double the budget. And we're like, well, calm down. This is already 60% of your advertising. We double it, it's going to be 90 something. The whole everything else is going to be down this one little bit, and then Google. And I have to say, I don't love Google, and we do have a poster on the wall just on the other side of this wall in the main office behind me that says Google are evil thieving Watsits. They are, but we've had very little issue with Google just suddenly becoming expensive overnight. It has happened quickly, but not overnight. We've not had dramatically entire
Meta's been super tumultuous this year, right?
Meta, I would say for the last 5 years, Meta's been an absolute chronic thorn in most advertisers' sides. We've had accounts turned off for 6 weeks, 8 weeks on Meta, no reason or rhyme, and Facebook's gone, oh, we checked the account, everything's fine, it's back on, and you're like, and Christmas is gone. We literally had a retailer who couldn't
Yeah.
advertise on Meta over Christmas.
I've
We
been in
turned to
similar
TikTok,
situations
Pinterest.
where,
Yeah.
bananas. I suppose what's interesting, what a brilliant stroke of genius that founding the Google business was by the founders of that one. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I suppose what's interesting is to see, as we sort of future gaze into, again, how AI will get more and more into the, I suppose, paid and organic element of what brands and merchants and things need to do to appear above the fold. It's going to be a fascinating couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, touching on AI very quickly, for anyone watching on YouTube, I'm looking the other way for a sec because I'm just checking on my phone. One of my team has been sending me these new AI prompts from Google. And if you're looking on Instagram, you can have a quick look at this if it focuses. I don't know if it's going
nearly,
to.
there we go, yeah.
Nearly.
I'm looking now. No, it's not there.
Disappear from it. There you
Put
go.
it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, for anyone who can't see that, it says doctors recommend smoking 2 to 3 cigarettes per day during pregnancy. That is the top thing if you search smoking while pregnant and you've got the AI results turned on. The other one I saw yesterday as well was we highly recommend improving bath water temperature by putting a toaster in the bath. So this is what AI is currently telling people. My wife is a doctor, so we will find out who turns up at her practice in the coming weeks having taken up smoking during pregnancy or electrocuting themselves with a toaster. So AI is in its infancy, and I think we've got plenty of evidence of that. But it is coming, and I certainly on SEO, I'm not too worried. I've got so panicked about things before, like mobile websites, responsive websites, Google's Panda and Penguin updates around linking and content, and their new big Eat update of having, authoritative, decent, transparent content, etc. I've got worried about these things. Actually, I think all AI is going to do is it's going to have the ability to spider sites quicker and actually convert what you've written in black and white text in a paragraph. It will convert it to something it's digested. So I think for now, the way to do SEO, which is how I've been doing it for 16 years now, is be a good business, have a good product, share a good message. And the same with Google Ads. As we said earlier, we're talking about the kind of mass media campaigns. You've got a good product, good marketing, you've spoken to your customers to find out what they really want, then all this stuff's going to tick a little bit more. I guess final question, Richard, just to kind of round off today. And we've touched on this already when we talked about SEO in particular. But when you look at the wider marketing mix and from a kind of marketing strategy point of view, so like, and some of the brands you've worked within, how do you kind of position search within the bigger mix, specifically about what you were just saying about intent and Google having that customer intent when you advertise to people?
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose there's a couple things here that come to mind. If you can, perhaps, it's maybe a bit of a whiteboard exercise, but there's an element of listing out all the possible channels you have. And actually, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I do have a slide with this on, like the 30 different channels that are possible. Things like everything from, live speaking at an event or doing a podcast like we are now, thought leadership and awareness, down to paid search. And obviously, when you deconstruct paid search, you've got of course, Google is the major dominant in the Western world, but it isn't over in the Far East. Obviously, Bing have got one to watch, I suppose. I'm still waiting for Apple to launch theirs because I can't believe they aren't going to. I just don't. So there's all that, right? So when you really think about it, and there's an element of then coming back to what, and then it's almost like you need to sort of look at that framework of all the channels that are possible and through a different number of lenses. So who are our target audience? And what is the day in the life of? Which of these channels do they interact with? Probably, I suppose organically in their own normal day. And as we know, consumers are getting more and more, I suppose, bombarded than ever with thousands of messages a day across the platforms they have. But, where are they hanging out? What's the sort of the day in the life of, from getting up in the morning to falling asleep? And then I think about, where have I got an opportunity to communicate to them in that? There's an element, again, of the type of product and brand. You said, are you that sort of rational, impulsive product, or are you very emotional, long buying time? That's something consideration. But also, I suppose, there's an element of the unit economics of your business, so, the average order value, your gross margin and things like that, which means that perhaps if you've got higher AOVs, higher gross margin, and you're already established, you might have the critical mass to just jump straight into the television and out-of-home posters and some of those other things in the upper funnel. Or if you're a startup with literally £5 in the bank, or the 50 quid that Google gives you, the free credit you get to get going. Probably then, those easy to turn on and off channels are really compelling, including search. And where am I getting to? But it's also, I suppose, the confidence in either yourself or in the team around you and the resources to manage it effectively. So if you think about, obviously you might have the money to do a TV ad or, again, to scale your Google search, but actually have you got the right technology and team, the right resources, the tools that you need to do those properly? And there's lots going on there, isn't there, to unpack and try and think about.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a bit of the approach, is looking at that. And it's very different from, like, I've got an idea, I've got a startup like the Biome 9, but this is in startup mode versus, perhaps the scale up is that I've been reliant on Google search today and it's slowing down or getting harder. What should I do next? It's very, very different. I don't know if that's helped, Nick, but I would think about those things. But always come back. I think the one thing to come back to is like the consumer, like always champion the consumer and think about the day in the life of that. Where is search important, or what are they using search for that's relevant to your product, which may not be the brand name because you might not be famous yet, but what are those more generic things that perhaps you can build, again, organic content around, and have and also some paid and confidence in what you do on the paid side.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of things I'd add to that. I completely agree with everything you said. I think one which you hinted at anyway was like data. See what works, see what sticks. I think it's so important because you can try all these different things and then go like, okay, it's been a complete failure. I've lost £2,000 on Google Ads now. But actually, if you review the £2,000 and go, was it spent in completely the wrong place? And are we still in the dark? We just know one of a billion doors now is closed. So actually, let's look at the next door and try a different tactic, different set of keywords, different set of products, whatever. The second thing I would add to that, though, and this is becoming a bit of a mantra of mine at the moment, is about testing. And we've had far too many brands over the years reach out to us and make bland statements on emails or in meetings to me, just saying like, oh, Meta doesn't work for me, or Pinterest didn't work for me, email doesn't work for me. And some of them I raise my eyebrows at and go like, oh, that's really interesting, and obviously want to be respectful to the person who's sharing that piece of information, but equally challenge them and say like, why do you think it's not working? It's like, oh, we sent a survey out and no one filled it out. I'm like, what? So you've shut the door on customer surveys and talking to customers. How on earth are you going to find out who they are, what they want, what they use your product for, where they're from, etc., if you can't even talk to them? Actually, what we need to do is work out the method to speak to them. And normally I'd say to brands at that point, if you tried a survey and haven't done it, just pick up the phone. Just as soon as an order comes in now, they're on your website still. The next order that comes in, dial whatever number they put in the phone box and just, on your website and just say like, hey,
we've set up for a number of our clients, Nick, on that basis, actually. Depending on the founder and the style slightly, but there's one in particular that comes to mind. We did a recency frequency monetary analysis of customers. So like you can identify like a nursery new customer, and likewise if a soulmate VIP customer makes a transaction. And we used to fill up 1 hour of the founder's diary on a Friday morning and set an automation up that he would have just 6 or 7 contacts across all that new customer, middle customer, a couple of high sort of VIPs, and just pick up the phone and say, hi, it's the owner of the business, and they'd be like, wow, great, like, just what's going on, what do you like, what don't you like, just get it's amazing, because there's I think interestingly, virtually, again, 10 or 20% of the clients we work with, you say, name your best customer, they can't. And if it was a physical shop, you could.
Absolutely.
What was I thinking when you were talking about testing? Actually, what's really interesting, I remember one of the brands where I was working at, and they tried actually paid search, and I think if the founder had put, let's say a credit card into the system, then got the team to put some things put it live, and over a weekend it spent £20,000, and they'd got 1,500 back. It was like, well, this isn't working. You're right. And I remember going into this and said, look, I want to get paid search going, and it went, absolutely no way, just because it doesn't work. I've seen it, we'll try it, and I'm like, and I went, well. But I think one of the things that was hopefully something useful for the listeners to take away is that if you don't know what good looks like, reach out to someone like Nick or someone in my team or whoever. Genuinely, as an element of like, if you think something is a closed door, it probably isn't. There's somewhere in that path, either at the very moment of the ad itself or perhaps further downstream, like in the checkout or something, right? And in that particular company, actually there was the click-through rates and the ads were pretty okay. I would say they were okay. They were well written. We're getting good visibility, top 3 positioning, and click-through rates were good. And then you look at the landing pages, and these were directly to products. It was people, again, high intent, typing in long search terms directly to a product, so high intent. And then there are typos and spelling mistakes on the page. We're out of stock. We're advertising on out of stocks. You're just the fundamental things, and thinking, and actually. It's one of the times, rare times in my career where I've said, give me £10,000, I will bring back £100,000 in revenue, I suppose last click,
Yeah.
And if I don't, you can fire me. And I made that and shook hands, and it was all right. I think we got £180,000 for my 10
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah.
Again, this
I
is in
had
the good days, in
I
the
had
early
one of
days.
those. I had one of those conversations 3 months ago, and the email I got the other day was like, "When are we putting the budget up? It's all going really, really well." And so I replied just saying, "So I take it we're not fired then?" And it was like,
Yeah,
and I think the response was absolutely bloody not. So which was good.
good.
But yeah, no, I
Yeah, but I think
completely
that's a
agree.
really important point, isn't
Yeah.
it? Because I imagine, again, not sure. Again, sort of.
Mm.
Again, I'm sure you've got a very varied listenership here, from marketing
Yeah.
practitioners, perhaps to some owners and stuff. But all of these things have such. They're so difficult to measure, as we know, right? In terms of really what is good, and trusting. I suppose what you're seeing, and also the people that are managing it. So don't ever be frightened to reach out for a third party opinion. There'll be loads of
And
people looking after
just
that.
on that, I've watched, sad to say, and I've shouted as loud as I could through these situations, but I've watched more than one brand choke itself to death, like turn its best channel off because the proof wasn't there. So the owner said, right, we're turning it off. Because they turned it off, and at the next chat, like they turned like Meta ads off, and then Google ads stopped working because the top of
Yeah,
funnel was being done on Meta and the middle of funnel was done on Google. And it was like, because you turned it off, I know exactly what we need to do now. And it's like, no, Google ads is like the ROI is halved now. And I'm like, and we know why. We know why. When our ROI is not good enough, but at least turn the channel back on and we can start optimizing. We know where the
yeah.
problems are now. But yeah, and then they turned Google Ads off, and then it was like now our SEO is not firing as much as it was. It's like because SEO was bottom of funnel, and we haven't got a funnel. There's no pipeline of customers on their way through. And then they turned that off, and they're like, now all our direct's gone. Like we're closing the business down. It's like you guys are absolutely. I actually offered to buy the business in that situation. I said, give it to me.
Okay.
I'll take it from here. But they flat out refused, and we went our separate ways. It was really
Yeah, I
sad, but
think
it
ultimately,
was
again, if you've got some
painful.
sort of marketing leaders in the channel, I think is
Mm,
the metrics I take back to owners, and often you get owners that are, let's say, hyper inquisitive, want to know everything, perhaps a more micro management style, and you've got others that
yeah,
are sort of maybe a bit more trusting and let you on. But if you can buy yourself some time and just say, look, give me a
mm,
new customer acquisition budget total.
yeah,
I'm the magician that goes away and works out where and how to spend it,
yeah,
and give yourself enough headroom in that to have some of a
yeah,
testing budget consistently to try new things, but also a little bit of headroom around that, and also make sure we talk about sort of profitability of these channels. Really understand the gross and net margin
mm,
of your business
yeah, yeah,
as a marketeer, because if you don't, that's when you're going to get the surprises from a founder or a finance director saying, "Oh, this is too expensive. Now I'm going to turn off the top of the funnel," and you're
yeah,
like, "Whoa, that's the whole business exists because we're filling that up. What you're
yeah.
doing." So just have a real understanding of your gross and net margin.
Mm, absolutely.
Really key.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, Richard, let's bring things to
Cool.
land there. That's I think a really good note for people to take away. And I want to thank you again. Third time I've
No
interviewed you now,
problem.
and
I
it's been
really
an
enjoy
absolute
it. It's
pleasure.
a great time.
Great stuff. And anyone wants to reach out to Richard, as he said, yeah, head over to the Growth Foundation, and also check out their app Order Rescue as well, which is absolutely awesome. I
Yeah, thank you.
again, it's a free endorsement, but a really big endorsement for me.
Yeah,
I
and it's
think it's
free
a
to install as
fantastic
well.
thing.
So crack on. Yeah, it
Absolutely
gives
no
you all
reason
that
not to then.
visibility.
Great stuff. Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, please go and check out our YouTube channel because you can actually sit there and engage with it. But it depends where you want to listen to this. Thanks for tuning in. Back again next Friday, and we'll see you all then.